The air froze as she answered in perfect Mandarin, exposing herself to the most dangerous man in Chinatown, who had just ordered a hit on her family. But no one could have predicted how a single translation would ignite a passion that would burn their worlds to ashes. Is your heart racing yet? Tell us where you're watching from and hit subscribe for more forbidden romances that dance on the edge of destruction. The crash of breaking glass silenced the crowded restaurant. Mei Lin froze, staring at the shattered plates around her feet as three men in impeccable suits entered Dynasty Garden. Even the clattering kitchen fell silent. The lead man, tall with cold eyes that missed nothing, surveyed the room with the casual ownership of someone who collected people's fears like precious coins. "Mr. Zhang," the manager stammered, rushing forward with trembling hands. "We weren't expecting you tonight." Zhang ignored him, speaking rapid-fire Mandarin to his associates. His voice was velvet-wrapped steel as he gestured toward the back office. The manager's smile faltered, sweat beading on his forehead as he struggled to follow the Chinese conversation. "He wants to know why you've been skimming from the protection payments," Mei Lin said in English before she could stop herself. "And why you thought he wouldn't notice." Every head snapped toward her. The restaurant seemed to hold its collective breath. Zhang's obsidian eyes locked with hers. "You speak Mandarin." Not a question. Mei Lin's heart hammered against her ribs. 6 months undercover as a waitress, gathering evidence on the Zhang crime family's operations, and she'd just blown her cover in 5 seconds flat. "Just enough to get by," she answered, forcing a casual shrug while calculating the distance to the kitchen's back exit. Zhang dismissed his men with a subtle nod, sending them to the office with the now ghostly pale manager. Then he approached Mei, each deliberate step making her pulse spike higher. "No one just speaks my dialect of Mandarin in San Francisco," he said softly, switching to the language in question. His proximity sent electricity racing across her skin. "Especially not with a Beijinger accent." Mei Lin answered in the same dialect, her training kicking in. "My grandmother was from Beijing. I spent summers with her." He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, sandalwood and something darker. His eyes narrowed slightly, not with suspicion, but curiosity. His gaze dropped to her name tag, then back to her face, studying her with an intensity that made her forget to breathe. "Your name isn't Mei Lin," he stated simply. A crash from the back office broke the spell between them. Zhang's men dragged the sobbing manager through a side door. "Apparently we have a vacancy," Zhang said, his eyes never leaving hers. "I need someone who speaks Mandarin to manage this place. The job is yours. I can't. You can and you will." His voice remained soft, but the steel beneath was unmistakable. "I'll expect you in my office tomorrow, 9 sharp." As he turned to leave, his shoulder brushed hers, the briefest contact that nonetheless sent a current racing through her body. Mei Lin's training screamed danger, but something else, something treacherous, whispered curiosity. In the distance, police sirens wailed, reminding her why she was here. Agent Maya Chen of the FBI had spent 3 years building a case against the Zhang organization. One meeting with the man himself might give her everything she needed. Or it might get her killed. As Zhang reached the door, he paused and looked back at her. For a heartbeat, something vulnerable flashed across his face, so quickly she might have imagined it. Then he was gone, leaving behind only the lingering scent of sandalwood and the uncomfortable realization that the most dangerous man in Chinatown had seen something in her no one else ever had. Maya watched the red taillights of Zhang's Bentley disappear into the fog. Her hands trembled as she pulled out her burner phone to call her handler. The manager's muffled screams echoed from the alley. The Zhang Tower dominated the San Francisco skyline, 60 stories of glass and steel that caught the morning light like a blade. Maya stared up at it, remembering the crime scene photos of rivals who'd crossed Victor Zhang. Her FBI badge and gun were locked in her apartment safe, useless to her now. The lobby's security checkpoint loomed ahead. If they searched her, they'd find the wire. Game over. Miss Lin? The receptionist smiled brightly. Mr. Zhang is expecting you. Top floor. No security check, no pat down, as if Zhang wanted to make it easy for her, or as if he already knew. The private elevator required a key card, which the receptionist provided with practiced efficiency. As the doors closed, Maya saw a camera tracking her movements. She was committed now. 60 floors to compose herself. 60 floors to remember that Victor Zhang had ordered the execution of federal witnesses, that his heroine had killed hundreds, that the charm he'd shown last night was his most lethal weapon. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse office with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the bay. Zhang stood with his back to her, hands clasped behind him as he gazed out at his empire. The view reminds me why I fight for this city, he said without turning. Do you know what San Francisco looked like before my father came here? Chinatown was ruled by street thugs with no vision. He turned, and Maya's carefully constructed defenses faltered. In daylight, his features were sharper, more defined, aristocratic cheekbones and intelligent eyes that seemed to strip away pretense. I'm not sure what managing a restaurant has to do with fighting for the city, she said, finding her voice. Zhang smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his face. You're direct. Good. The restaurant is the least of my concerns. I need someone I can trust for more important matters. You don't know me. I know more than you think, Mei Lin. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Or should I call you something else? Maya's blood turned to ice. She forced herself to sit, crossing her legs casually. Mei Lin is fine. Zhang nodded, studying her with that same intense focus from the restaurant. Tell me, what does Beijing look like now? When was the last time you saw your grandmother? A test. Maya had spent months memorizing her cover identity. 3 years ago. The hutongs near the Forbidden City are disappearing. My grandmother refuses to leave, even though developers offer her millions. Something shifted in Zhang's expression. Approval, perhaps. He leaned forward. My father left Beijing in 1989. He never spoke of it again. Tiananmen Square, Maya said softly, forgetting momentarily that she was supposed to be playing a role. Zhang's eyes darkened. Yes, he believed in order above all else. When chaos threatened his new home, he responded the only way he knew how. By building an empire on blood. The words escaped before she could stop them. Zhang's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Everything valuable requires sacrifice, he said quietly. Even your FBI badge. Maya's heart stopped. Zhang's smile returned, razor sharp. Did you think I wouldn't run a background check? Your Mandarin is excellent, but your eyes give you away. They see too much. If you know who I am, why am I still alive? Maya asked, her hand inching toward the concealed knife in her sleeve. Zhang laughed, the sound unexpectedly warm. Because you're more valuable to me alive. Someone has been informing the triads about my shipments. I need to find the traitor. And you think an FBI agent will help you? I think a woman smart enough to infiltrate my organization will understand the opportunity I'm offering. He stood, circling the desk until he was close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Work with me. Find the traitor. In return, I'll give you someone much bigger than me. Who? Politicians. The ones who protect me while condemning the violence my protection creates. His voice dropped to a whisper. Help me, and I'll help you burn the real criminals to the ground. The rain lashed against the windows of Maya's apartment as she paced, her FBI handler's voice crackling through the burner phone. He made you? And let you walk out? Special Agent Davis sounded incredulous. Chen, you need to disappear. Now. He's offering us bigger fish, Maya argued, watching the street below for Zhang's men. Politicians on the take, Davis. The ones who've been blocking our investigations for years. It's a trap. Maybe. Maya pressed her forehead against the cool glass. But what if it's not? Zhang isn't his father. Something's different about him. Davis was silent for a long moment. You're compromised, Chen. I'm not. You are. I can hear it in your voice. His tone softened. Look, I get it. Zhang's smart, charismatic. That makes him more dangerous, not less. The call ended with reluctant approval for one more meeting, but Davis's words lingered. Was she already compromised? The way her body had reacted to Zhang's proximity suggested a complication she couldn't afford. A black Bentley pulled up outside her building. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Dinner? We have much to discuss. No surveillance team, no backup, just Maya and the dragon she was supposed to slay. The restaurant was tucked away on a side street in Chinatown, small, elegant, with private booths separated by ornate screens. Zhang waited at the back, dressed not in his usual suit, but dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that made him look almost approachable. Almost normal. Agent Chen, he greeted her, standing as she approached. Thank you for coming. How did you find my apartment? Zhang smiled. The same way I found your real name. I have resources. A waiter appeared with tea, then vanished silently. Maya, Zhang said, testing her name. It suits you better than Mei Lin. The intimacy of hearing her real name on his lips unsettled her more than any threat could have. You said you have information, she prompted, ignoring the warmth spreading through her chest. Patience. He poured her tea with the practiced movements of someone raised in tradition. First we eat, then we talk business. The meal progressed with surprising ease. Zhang spoke of art, literature, his time studying at Harvard, constructing a version of himself that Maya found increasingly difficult to reconcile with the crime lord from her files. Your father, she finally said as dessert arrived. The file says he died 3 years ago. Zhang's expression closed off momentarily. Cancer, slow and painful like most of his legacy. You took over everything. I inherited a kingdom built on principles I didn't choose. His eyes met hers, unexpectedly vulnerable. Did you choose to become FBI, Maya, or was it chosen for you? The question hit too close. Her father, the decorated police officer killed in the line of duty. Her mother's expectations. The weight of legacy. We all have choices, she said instead of answering. Do we? Zhang reached across the table, his fingers almost touching hers. Or do we just pretend the cage doesn't exist because we've grown used to the bars? A phone rang. Zhang's. His expression darkened as he answered in rapid Mandarin. Maya caught enough. A shipment compromised. Police waiting at the docks. I have to go. He stood, throwing cash on the table. Someone is still betraying me. Victor, she said, surprising herself by using his first name. The information you promised. He hesitated, then slid a thumb drive across the table. Names, dates, recordings, enough to start. Their fingers brushed as she took it, sending electricity up her arm. Be careful who you trust with this, he warned, leaning close enough that she could feel his breath against her ear. The corruption goes deeper than you know. For one dizzying moment, Maya thought he might kiss her. Instead, he straightened, his mask of control firmly back in place. Until next time, Agent Chen. As he vanished into the rainy night, Maya clutched the thumb drive, wondering if she'd just been handed her career-making case or a poison pill that would destroy her. And why, despite everything, she was already looking forward to seeing him again. Or 4. The evidence on Zhang's thumb drive was explosive. Recordings of the mayor, 2 senators, and the police commissioner discussing protection for drug shipments in exchange for campaign contributions and personal payoffs. Maya had verified 3 meetings already, each one exactly as Zhang had described. This is incredible, Davis said, reviewing the files in their secure office. But Chen, you realize what this means? Zhang is burning his protection to save himself. Maya frowned. I don't think that's it. He seems disgusted by the arrangement. Criminals often develop convenient moral codes. Davis studied her. You've met with him 3 times now, off the record. Heat crept up Maya's neck. To gather intelligence. Right. Davis didn't sound convinced. The surveillance team lost you after the restaurant. Where did you go? Maya remembered walking with Victor through rain-slicked streets, ducking into a small art gallery closed to the public, him pointing out a Ming Dynasty scroll with unexpected passion. Nothing incriminating had happened, yet it felt more intimate than any confession. Nowhere important, she lied. He talks more when he thinks we're alone. Davis's phone rang. His expression turned grim as he listened. Got it. Send backup. He hung up, fixing Maya with a hard stare. Massive firefight at the docks. Zhang's men versus the triads. At least 12 dead. Maya's stomach dropped. Victor, is he? Victor, is it? Davis raised an eyebrow. Unknown. But this thumb drive makes more sense now. He's eliminating competition and cutting ties with officials who might turn on him. That's not. Chen, wake up. Davis slammed his hand on the desk. You're defending a man who just orchestrated a massacre. The worst part was Maya couldn't be certain he was wrong. 3 hours later, her burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. The safe house on Jackson Street. Come alone, please. The please decided her. The building was unassuming, with no visible security. Maya kept her hand on her gun as she climbed to the 3rd floor. The door opened before she could knock. Victor stood in the shadows, blood seeping through a makeshift bandage on his shoulder. You're hurt, she said, holstering her weapon. It looks worse than it is. His voice was strained, his usual composure fractured. Maya followed him inside, professional instincts warring with the inexplicable urge to help him. The apartment was sparsely furnished but elegant, with a single priceless painting on the wall, the same Ming Dynasty style from the gallery. Sit, she ordered, locating a first aid kit in the bathroom. Victor obeyed, watching her with guarded eyes as she cleaned and dressed his wound, a bullet graze that had torn through muscle. The triads knew exactly when and where my shipment would arrive, he said as she worked. Just like the last 3 times. Your mole. Yes. He winced as she applied antiseptic. But I've narrowed it down. Someone close to me. Someone who attends all my meetings. Maya secured the bandage. Is that why I'm here? To help you find your traitor so you can execute them? Victor caught her wrist, his touch burning against her skin. You're here because you're the only person I can trust. The confession hung between them, impossible and dangerous. 12 people died tonight, Maya said softly. Pain flickered across his face. I didn't order the attack. I was trying to prevent it. Why should I believe you? Because you're still here. His fingers tightened slightly around her wrist. Because something between us is real, Maya, even if everything else is built on lies. She should have pulled away, should have arrested him, or at minimum left. Instead, she remained frozen, caught in the gravity of his gaze. Help me end this, he whispered. No more bloodshed, no more poison in the streets. How? The thumb drive was just the beginning. I have everything. Ledgers, accounts, names. Enough to dismantle not just my father's empire, but the entire system that protects it. His face was inches from hers now. But I can't do it alone. Maya's training screamed warnings, but her heart, her treacherous heart, spoke louder. If you're lying to me, she began. I'm not. He released her wrist to gently touch her face. That's what terrifies me. Time suspended as they stared at each other, the line between duty and desire blurring beyond recognition. Maya's phone shattered the moment, Davis calling. She stepped back, reality crashing in. I have to go. Victor nodded, something like resignation in his eyes. Tomorrow night, the old temple on Grant. I'll bring everything. As Maya reached the door, his voice stopped her. Maya, be careful who follows you. The traitor has connections in your department too. She left without looking back, afraid of what her eyes might reveal. Rain pounded the pavement as Maya ducked into the shadow of a doorway, scanning the street behind her. Someone was following her. The same black sedan had circled the block twice. Davis's words echoed in her mind. "You're compromised." Was she? The evidence against Victor was damning. The blood on his family's hands, the bodies at the dock. Yet in their private moments, she'd glimpsed someone fighting against his inheritance, not embracing it. Her phone vibrated, a text from Davis. "Where are you? Emergency briefing." Maya hesitated, remembering Victor's warning about connections in the FBI. Davis had been acting strangely since she'd brought in the thumb drive, asking questions about her meetings with Victor that went beyond professional concern. She texted back, "On my way," but headed toward the temple instead. The ancient building stood quiet amidst the neon chaos of Chinatown. Maya slipped through a side entrance, gun drawn, every sense alert for an ambush. Victor waited alone in the main chamber, surrounded by candles that cast shifting shadows across his face. Beside him lay an open laptop and a stack of ledgers. "You came." Relief softened his features. "I'm not sure why," she admitted, keeping her distance. "Because you want the truth. Same as me." He gestured to the materials. "It's all here. 20 years of corruption. My father built his empire by buying protection from the very institutions meant to stop him." Maya approached cautiously, scanning the documents, bank transfers, offshore accounts, transcripts of conversations, a comprehensive map of corruption reaching from San Francisco to Washington. This would destroy careers. "Dismantle entire departments," she breathed, recognizing names of colleagues, judges, even her former academy instructor. "Yes." Victor's eyes never left her face. "Including your partner, Davis." Maya's head snapped up. "What?" Victor turned the laptop toward her. A video played. Davis meeting with Victor's father 3 years ago, accepting an envelope, promising to handle the investigation. "No," Maya whispered, but the evidence was irrefutable. Davis had been on the payroll long before she joined his team. "I'm sorry," Victor said softly. "He assigned you to infiltrate my organization because you were the only agent he couldn't buy. He needed someone to report to his superiors while he controlled what information actually reached them." The betrayal cut deep, reshaping Maya's understanding of her entire career. Had anything been real? "Why are you doing this?" She asked, gesturing to the evidence. "Turning on your own empire?" Victor stepped closer, close enough that she could see the internal struggle in his eyes. "My father believed power came from fear. I watched that philosophy destroy him from the inside out." His voice dropped. "I won't become him, Maya. Not even for an empire." A noise outside, car doors slamming, footsteps approaching rapidly. "We need to go," Victor urged, gathering the evidence. "Now!" "Stop!" Davis's voice echoed through the temple as he entered with 4 armed agents. "FBI, hands where I can see them." Maya and Victor froze, caught in the open with nowhere to run. "Agent Chen," Davis said, his expression a mixture of disappointment and anger. "Step away from him." Maya didn't move. "You've been on his father's payroll for years." Davis's smile was cold. "And now I'm on someone else's. The triads pay better." He gestured to the evidence. "That goes with me." "The triads?" The Victor's voice was dangerously quiet. "You're the one who's been compromising my shipments." Someone had to balance the power. Davis trained his gun on Victor. "Now step away from Agent Chen before I put a bullet in you." Maya made her decision in an instant, drawing her weapon and pointing it at Davis. "Lower your gun. You're under arrest." The other agents looked confused, weapons wavering between Maya and Victor. Davis laughed. 4 against 2. Bad odds, Chen. 5 against 3, actually, came a new voice as Victor's security chief Wei emerged from the shadows with 2 armed men. "Mr. Zhang, we need to leave." The standoff stretched, each heartbeat an eternity. "Maya," Victor said quietly, "this isn't your fight." "It became my fight the moment he betrayed the badge," she answered, never taking her eyes off Davis. "You won't make it out of here," Davis warned. "Not alive." "Perhaps not," Victor agreed. "But we only need one person to survive with the evidence." He glanced at Maya, an entire conversation passing between them in a look. She understood immediately. One of them could create a diversion while the other escaped with the proof. A sacrifice play. Maya's finger tightened on the trigger. In that moment, she knew she would risk everything, her career, her life, the walls she'd built around her heart, to protect this man who should have been her enemy. Before either could move, gunfire erupted outside, followed by shouts in Mandarin. "Triads," Wei confirmed, peering through a window. "At least 20. They were surrounded, FBI in front, triads closing in behind, and only moments to decide. Victor met Maya's eyes, and in them she saw not a crime lord, but a man facing impossible choices. Her own reflection stared back at her, equally torn. "Together," she whispered, "just for him." His slight nod sealed their fate as the temple doors burst open. Chaos erupted as triad soldiers poured into the temple. Maya grabbed Victor's arm, pulling him behind a massive stone pillar as bullets splintered the ancient wood around them. Davis and his men returned fire, caught in a deadly crossfire they hadn't anticipated. "This way," Victor whispered, tugging Maya toward a hidden door behind the altar. Wei and one of his men provided covering fire while Victor punched a code into an electronic keypad disguised as ornamental woodwork. The door slid open, revealing a narrow passage illuminated by emergency lighting. Maya hesitated, glancing back at the evidence they'd left behind. "The laptop," she hissed. "Encrypted." "Useless without the passkey," Victor assured her, pressing something cold into her palm. "A small metal USB drive. Everything's backed up. This is the only copy." Maya clutched it as Wei shoved them both through the doorway. "Go. I'll hold them off." Victor's eyes met his security chief's. A silent acknowledgement passed between them, the kind shared by men who understood sacrifice. "Find Lin," Victor told him. "He's the only other one who knew about tonight." The passage sealed behind them, muffling the gunfire. Victor led Maya through a labyrinth of tunnels that smelled of damp stone and incense. "These passages were built during Prohibition," he explained, his voice echoing softly. "My grandfather used them to smuggle liquor. My father used them for heroin." "And you?" Maya asked, her fingers still wrapped around his wrist. Victor's pace slowed. In the dim light, his expression was unreadable. "I used them to smuggle people out. Witnesses who needed to disappear before my father's men found them." The confession hung between them, another piece of the puzzle that was Victor Zhang. They emerged in an underground garage where a nondescript sedan waited. Victor moved with practiced efficiency, checking the vehicle for tracking devices before opening the passenger door for Maya. "Where are we going?" she asked as he pulled out into the rain-soaked streets. "Somewhere my father never knew about." Victor's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "Somewhere even Wei doesn't know exists." They drove in tense silence through the city, taking a convoluted route to avoid potential tails. Maya watched Victor's profile, the rigid set of his jaw, the calculation in his eyes as he scanned each intersection. This was the Victor she'd read about in FBI files. Strategic, dangerous, always 3 moves ahead. Yet this was also the man who'd shown her ancient art with reverent hands, who spoke of his father with complex grief, who looked at her as if she were a miracle he couldn't quite believe. "Davis will report that I've gone rogue," Maya said finally. "Every law enforcement agency in California will be looking for us by morning." "Not just Davis." Victor took a sharp turn down an alley. "The triads will hunt us. My own organization will question my loyalty once they learn I was planning to expose everything. We've burned all our bridges." The corner of Victor's mouth lifted in a grim smile. "Not quite all." The car emerged from the city, climbing into the wooded hills north of the bay. The rain intensified, drumming against the roof as they followed an unmarked road deeper into the darkness. An hour later, they reached a modernist structure of glass and steel perched on a cliffside, invisible from the main road. Victor parked in a covered garage that sealed behind them. Inside, the house was minimalist but luxurious, all clean lines and panoramic views currently obscured by fog and rain. No personal items, no photographs. A safe house designed to leave no trace of its occupant. The deed is held by a shell corporation registered in the Caymans, Victor explained, securing the doors. Not connected to any of my known aliases or businesses. Maya moved to the window, watching lightning illuminate the churning ocean below. How long have you been planning this? To destroy your father's empire? Victor approached, stopping just short of touching her. Since I held his hand as he died. He asked me to promise I would protect what he'd built. His voice dropped. I promised I would protect what mattered. And what matters, Victor? Maya turned to face him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. The truth. His eyes held hers. Justice. Redemption, if such a thing is possible. For your father's sins or your own? The question hung between them, raw and exposed. Victor reached up slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered against her cheek. Both, he whispered. The power cut suddenly, plunging the house into darkness. Victor moved instantly, pulling Maya away from the window as a security panel beeped warning. Someone's coming, he murmured against her ear. Multiple vehicles on the access road. Maya's hand went to her gun. How? No one knew about this place. Victor's expression hardened. Someone did. They moved silently through the darkened house, Victor leading Maya to a concealed panic room behind the wine cellar. Inside, banks of monitors showed security camera feeds of the perimeter. 3 SUVs, Maya counted, watching black-clad figures deploy in tactical formation. Not police procedure, not triads either. My father's loyalists, Victor confirmed grimly. Led by my cousin Lynn. The man in question appeared on the central screen, younger than Victor, with the same aristocratic features twisted into something harder, colder. Your cousin is the traitor? He always believed he should have inherited the organization. Victor opened a weapons safe, retrieving 2 handguns and spare magazines. He was feeding information to the triads to destabilize my position, probably planning to step in once I was eliminated. Maya checked her own weapon. How did he find us? Victor paused, revelation dawning in his eyes. The temple wasn't random. My father used to pray there. Lynn knew I'd choose somewhere meaningful for the evidence exchange. He pulled up a blueprint of the house on another screen, pointing to escape routes. We have maybe 5 minutes before they breach the main entrance. There's a tunnel system beneath the house leading to a boathouse half a mile down the cliff. Maya studied the routes, committing them to memory. And if we make it out? What then? We take the evidence to the one person at the FBI who isn't compromised. Your former supervisor, Deputy Director Wilson. Victor handed her a satellite phone. He's been building a case against corruption in the Bureau for years. How do you know about Wilson? Because I've been feeding him information anonymously for the past 18 months. The confession stunned Maya into silence. All this time, Victor had been working against his own organization from the inside, just as she had. Why didn't you tell me? For the same reason you didn't tell me you were FBI until I forced your hand. His smile was sad. Trust is a luxury neither of us could afford. A notification flashed on the security system, perimeter breach at the north entrance. Victor checked the feed, then turned back to Maya, urgency in every line of his body. We need to move. Now. They slipped from the panic room, navigating the house through service corridors designed for discretion. Victor moved with the silent grace of someone accustomed to danger, while Maya matched his pace, her FBI training keeping her steps light and precise. They'd almost reached the tunnel entrance when gunfire erupted from the main section of the house. Shouted commands in Mandarin echoed through the corridors. They're searching room by room, Victor whispered, pressing Maya against the wall as footsteps approached. They were hidden in shadow, bodies close enough that Maya could feel Victor's heartbeat against her chest. His arm wrapped protectively around her waist, drawing her deeper into the darkness. Two armed men passed within feet of their hiding place. Maya held her breath, hyper-aware of every point where Victor's body touched hers, his chest against her back, his lips nearly brushing her ear as he remained perfectly still. When the men disappeared around a corner, Victor's grip loosened slightly, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he turned Maya to face him, their bodies still pressed together in the narrow space. "If anything happens," he murmured, "get the evidence to Wilson. Promise me." In the dim emergency lighting, his eyes were shadowed but intent. Maya recognized the look of a man preparing for sacrifice. "We both make it out, or neither of us does," she replied, gripping his jacket. "That's the deal." Something shifted in Victor's expression, surprise, followed by a warmth that transformed his face. Before Maya could process the change, he leaned forward and kissed her with devastating gentleness. The world narrowed to that single point of contact, his lips on hers, tentative at first, then with growing urgency as she responded. Heat bloomed between them, 3 months of tension crystallizing into desperate need. Maya knew with absolute clarity that this moment would divide her life into before and after, regardless of whether they survived the night. A crash from the direction they'd come broke them apart. Victor pressed his forehead briefly against hers, then pulled back, decision crystallizing in his eyes. "Change of plan," he said, checking his weapon. "They're between us and the tunnel entrance. Options? Create a diversion. Draw them away from the east wing." He nodded toward a corridor on their right. "There's a second exit through the garage, less expected." Maya nodded, understanding forming between them without words. "I'll circle around, create chaos at the west entrance. You head for the garage." "Too dangerous," Victor objected. "They shoot to kill." "So do I." Maya's smile was fierce. 5 minutes, then we meet at the garage." Before he could argue, she slipped away, disappearing into the shadows with the same skill that had kept her alive under cover for months. Victor watched her go, a complex mixture of pride and fear tightening his chest. Then he moved in the opposite direction, preparing to fight his way out of the legacy he'd inherited, but never wanted. Maya's diversion worked perfectly. Too perfectly. As gunfire erupted from the west wing, drawing Lynn's men toward the commotion, Victor made his way to the garage undetected. Every instinct screamed at him to go back for her, but he forced himself to stick to the plan. Maya was a trained federal agent. She knew what she was doing. The garage was empty when he arrived. Victor disabled the electronic locks, overriding security to ensure Maya could enter when she arrived. 5 minutes stretched to 7, then 10. The gunfire had stopped. Cold dread pooled in Victor's stomach. He was reaching for his weapon when the side door burst open, and Maya stumbled through, clutching her upper arm where blood soaked through her sleeve. "Go," she gasped. "They're right behind me." Victor helped her into the passenger seat of a matte black Range Rover as shouts echoed from within the house. He slammed the vehicle into reverse, crashing through the garage door rather than waiting for it to open. Rain lashed the windshield as they sped down the winding access road. Maya applied pressure to her wound, face pale but composed. "Just a graze," she assured him, reading the concern in his glance. "Your cousin has quite the temper." "You saw Lynn?" "Briefly. He seemed surprised to see me." Maya's smile was grim. More surprised when I shot the gun out of his hand. The road ahead was blocked by one of the SUVs. Victor didn't slow down, ramming it at an angle that sent it skidding off the narrow mountain road. Behind them, headlights appeared, the remaining vehicles in pursuit. "The USB," Maya suddenly said, patting her pockets with her good hand. "I had it in my jacket." Victor reached into his pocket and produced the drive. "I took it while you were planning your suicidal diversion." Figured one of us should definitely have it. Relief washed over Maya's face, followed quickly by indignation. You picked my pocket? Old habits. His smile faded as he focused on navigating the treacherous road. There's a coastal highway at the bottom of this hill. If we can reach it, we have a chance. Gunfire erupted from behind, bullets pinging off the reinforced frame of the Range Rover. Bulletproof, Victor explained at Maya's questioning look. One of my father's paranoid innovations I chose not to eliminate. They fishtailed around a sharp curve, the pursuing vehicles momentarily lost from view. Victor used the opportunity to take an unmarked turnoff that plunged even steeper down the mountainside through dense forest. This doesn't look like a road, Maya observed as branches scraped against the windows. Technically, it's a fire break. Victor gripped the wheel as they bounced over rocks and exposed roots. But it connects to an access point for the highway. The vehicle pitched and rolled, testing the limits of its suspension. Maya braced herself against the dashboard with her uninjured arm, eyes scanning the darkness ahead. Victor, she said quietly, about what happened back there. The kiss? His eyes remained fixed on the treacherous path. We can blame it on adrenaline and imminent death if you prefer. Is that what you want? Now he did look at her, just for a moment. No. The simple honesty in that single word stripped away the remaining barriers between them. Neither do I, Maya admitted. But when this is over, we'll still be on opposite sides of the law. Perhaps there's a third option. Victor navigated around a fallen tree. Neither your world nor mine, something new. The fantasy hung between them, tempting, impossible. Maya started to respond when headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. They found us, Victor said, accelerating despite the dangerous terrain. The pursuing vehicle was gaining, driven by someone familiar with the treacherous path. A bullet shattered the back window, sending glass spraying through the interior. Lynn, Victor confirmed, recognizing his cousin's driving. He used to race these trails when we were teenagers. The fire break widened as they approached the bottom of the slope, the highway visible through the trees ahead. Just as victory seemed within reach, a second vehicle appeared, cutting across their path from a connecting trail. Victor swerved to avoid collision, sending their Range Rover into a skid. The vehicle tipped precariously on two wheels before crashing back down and slamming into a tree trunk. The impact deployed the airbags. Maya fought through the disorientation, releasing her seatbelt and turning to Victor. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead, but he was already moving, checking her condition before reaching for his weapon. "Run for the highway," he ordered, shoving the USB drive into her hand. "I'll hold them off." We agreed, together or not at all. Maya. His voice softened as he cupped her face with one hand. Some promises are made to be broken. Before she could argue, Lynn's vehicle skidded to a stop behind them. Doors opened as armed men deployed into the rain. Victor's expression hardened with resolve. He leaned forward, kissing Maya one last time, fierce and desperate, before pulling away. "Go, please." In that moment, Maya saw the truth in his eyes. This had always been his plan, sacrifice himself to ensure the evidence reached the right hands. To burn down his father's legacy, even if it meant burning with it. She made her decision in a heartbeat, tucking the USB drive securely into her boot. Then she drew her weapon, ignoring the pain that flared in her injured arm. "Your father raised you to give orders," she said, checking her ammunition. "But I never was very good at following them." A reluctant smile tugged at Victor's lips as they prepared to make their final stand together. Rain poured in sheets as Maya and Victor crouched behind the wrecked Range Rover, using its bulk as cover. Lynn's men had surrounded them, taking positions behind trees and vehicles. "Victor," Lynn's voice carried through the storm. "Come out and I'll let the woman live." "He's lying," Maya said, checking her remaining ammunition. 2 rounds plus 1 in the chamber. "Of course he is." Victor's weapon had more rounds, but not enough to fight their way out. "He can't let either of us live." Not with what we know. A bullet pinged off the metal near Victor's head. He ducked lower, eyes never leaving Maya's face. "I need to tell you something," he said, voice barely audible above the rain and sporadic gunfire. "In case we don't make it." Maya's heart contracted painfully. "Don't." "My father's operation," Victor continued anyway. "I've been dismantling it for 3 years. The drug shipments have been getting smaller, the protection payments renegotiated. I've been working with Wilson to build cases against the infrastructure, piece by piece." Understanding dawned in Maya's eyes. "That's why the triads have been gaining ground. You've been deliberately weakening your position." Victor nodded. "My father's empire was built on human suffering. I couldn't dismantle it overnight without creating a power vacuum, but I could guide its collapse. Why didn't you tell Wilson about me? About my undercover operation?" "I didn't know until we met at the restaurant." His smile was rueful. "The moment you spoke Mandarin, I knew you weren't what you seemed. Just like you knew the same about me." The symmetry of their deception hung between them, each hiding their true purpose, each fighting from within a system they sought to change. "Victor, last chance," Lin called. "Surrender the evidence and yourself." The woman walks away. Maya and Victor exchanged a glance, a plan forming between them without words. She held up 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. They moved simultaneously, Maya firing her remaining rounds toward the men on the left, while Victor targeted the right. In the confusion, they sprinted toward the dense underbrush at the edge of the clearing. Gunfire erupted behind them as they crashed through the vegetation. Victor pulled Maya down a steep embankment, sliding through mud toward the highway below. Behind them, shouts and crashing footsteps indicated pursuit. They reached the roadside just as headlights appeared around the bend. Victor pushed Maya into the shadows as the vehicle approached, an 18-wheeler moving slowly in the storm. "When it passes," he whispered urgently, "run toward it and flag it down." "And you?" "I'll be right behind you." Maya's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Victor, I promise," he said, squeezing her hand. "Together or not at all, remember?" The truck rumbled closer. Maya stepped out onto the shoulder, waving her arms. The driver spotted her, brake lights flaring as the massive vehicle slowed. Victor emerged from the shadows, keeping his promise. They were 20 feet from the truck when a shot cracked through the air. Victor stumbled, a look of surprise crossing his face. Maya turned in time to see Lin at the top of the embankment, weapon raised for a second shot. She lunged toward Victor as another bullet whizzed past. The truck driver, seeing the gunfire, accelerated away in panic. Maya grabbed Victor, half dragging him toward a concrete drainage tunnel that ran beneath the highway. "I'm fine," he insisted, though blood spread across his side. "Keep moving." They crawled into the tunnel as more shots peppered the entrance. The concrete passage was barely 4 feet high, forcing them to crouch as they moved deeper into the darkness. Water rushed around their ankles, the storm draining through the very tunnel they used for escape. Maya pulled Victor along, feeling warm blood coating her hand where she gripped his waist. "Not much farther," she encouraged, though she had no idea where the tunnel led. Victor's breathing grew labored. When Maya paused to check their pursuers, she found him leaning heavily against the curved wall, face ashen in the dim light filtering from street lamps above drainage grates. "Let me see," she demanded, lifting his shirt to reveal the wound, a through and through that had missed vital organs but was bleeding heavily. She tore a strip from her own shirt, binding it tightly around his torso. "Maya," Victor said softly, reaching up to touch her face. "If we don't make it—" "Don't you dare!" she interrupted fiercely. "Don't you dare give me some noble death speech." A weak smile touched his lips. "I was only going to say I don't regret any of it. Meeting you. The choices that led us here." Maya's throat tightened with emotion she couldn't afford. "Save it for when we're safe. You can tell me everything then." Voices echoed from the tunnel entrance. Lin and his men had found their escape route. Maya helped Victor to his feet, supporting his weight as they continued forward. The tunnel eventually opened into a wider drainage channel. Above them loomed the concrete supports of the highway, while ahead, the channel emptied into the churning Pacific. They were trapped, ocean before them, armed men behind. Victor sagged against Maya, blood soaking through the makeshift bandage. "Get to the water," he urged. "You can swim along the coastline." "Not without you." "Maya." His voice was gentle but firm. "I can barely stand. You have the evidence. Finish what we started." Footsteps splashed behind them, closing in. Maya made her choice, pulling Victor toward a narrow maintenance ladder that led up to the highway. "Climb," she ordered. "Now." Through sheer willpower, Victor began the ascent, Maya close behind him, supporting him when his strength faltered. They emerged onto the deserted highway, just as Lin's men spilled into the drainage channel below. Headlights appeared in the distance, a vehicle approaching fast despite the treacherous conditions. Maya stepped into the road, praying whoever approached would stop. The car, a police cruiser, screeched to a halt. The officer emerged, weapon drawn. "Freeze! Police!" "FBI!" Maya called, raising her hands. "Agent Maya Chen, this man needs medical attention." The officer approached cautiously. "ID? Lost during pursuit." "Call Deputy Director Wilson at the San Francisco field office. Authorization code Romeo Tango 742. Recognition flickered in the officer's eyes. The code was genuine, used only for deep cover agents in extreme circumstances. He lowered his weapon slightly. "What's going on here, Agent?" Before Maya could answer, Victor collapsed beside her, blood pooling beneath him on the wet asphalt. As she dropped to her knees beside him, sirens wailed in the distance. Lin's men would hear them too. Time was running out. White walls, antiseptic smell, the steady beep of a heart monitor. Maya awoke in a hospital bed, Deputy Director Wilson sitting beside her. His face, weathered, kind, uncompromising, showed rare concern. "Welcome back, Agent Chen," he said. "You've been out for nearly 2 days." Maya struggled to sit up, memories flooding back. "Victor?" Wilson's expression revealed nothing. "Zhang is under guard in the secure wing." "Is he?" "Alive, barely." Wilson leaned forward. "The evidence was recovered from your boot. 17 arrests already, including Davis and Commissioner Ramos. This goes deeper than we imagined." Relief washed through Maya, followed immediately by uncertainty. Victor had survived, but what happened now? To him? To them? "I need to see him." "Not possible. He's in custody, Chen. Regardless of his cooperation, Zhang has blood on his hands. He saved my life. He was working to bring down his father's organization from within." Wilson studied her carefully. "Your handler warned me you might be compromised. I didn't believe it until now." Maya met his gaze unflinchingly. "With respect, sir, you've been receiving anonymous intelligence for 18 months. Who did you think was sending it?" Surprise flickered across Wilson's face, quickly masked by professional detachment. "We'll debrief fully when you're recovered. For now, rest." He left, the door closing with quiet finality behind him. 3 days later, against medical advice, Maya discharged herself. Her arm remained bandaged, her body bruised, but determination drove her forward. Using her reinstated FBI credentials, she made her way to the secure wing where Victor was held under guard. The officer recognized her, nodding respectfully as she approached. "Director Wilson said you might come by, Agent Chen. 5 minutes." The room beyond was Spartan, a hospital bed surrounded by monitoring equipment, handcuffs securing Victor's wrist to the railing. He looked pale but alert, his eyes warming as Maya entered. "You're okay," he said, relief evident in his voice. "Better than you." She approached the bed, stopping just short of taking his hand. "The evidence reached Wilson. Your cousin Lin and most of his men were apprehended at a roadblock." Victor nodded, something like peace settling over his features. "Then it was worth it." An uncomfortable silence fell between them. Too much to say, no way to say it. The guard's presence a constant reminder of the barriers still separating them. "What happens now?" Maya finally asked. "To me?" Victor's smile was resigned. "Federal prison, most likely. Even with cooperation, my crimes can't be overlooked. I'll testify. Explain everything you did to bring down the organization from within." "Maya," his voice softened, "don't sacrifice your career for me. It's not about you." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "It's about justice. The truth deserves to be told." The door opened behind her, Wilson entering with an expression that suggested complicated news. "Director," Maya acknowledged, straightening. "Chen." He nodded, then turned to Victor. "Mr. Zhang, we need to talk about witness protection." Maya's breath caught. "Sir?" "The triads have put out a contract. 2 million for Zhang's head. With what we've recovered from his father's accounts, we've frozen most of their assets. But they still have reach." Wilson placed a file on the bed. New identity, new location, complete disappearance. Hope flared briefly in Maya's chest, until Wilson continued. "Alone, of course. No contact with anyone from your previous life. Not family. Not." His eyes flickered to Maya. "Not friends." Victor's expression remained carefully neutral as he nodded. "I understand. I'll leave you two to say goodbye." Wilson moved to the door, then paused. "Chen, my office tomorrow at 9. We need to discuss your future with the Bureau." When they were alone, Maya turned back to Victor, struggling to find words adequate for the moment. "I'd do it all again," Victor said softly. "Every choice that led me here." Maya moved closer, no longer caring about surveillance cameras or protocol. She took his hand, fingers intertwining with his. "This isn't over," she promised. "Whatever Wilson has planned for me tomorrow, I'm not giving up. On the truth, on justice." She squeezed his hand. "On us." Victor's eyes held hers, vulnerability and strength in equal measure. "There's a Chinese proverb my mother used to say, 'Fate brings people together no matter how far apart they may be.'" "I don't believe in fate," Maya replied. "I believe in choices, and I choose to find you, no matter what name they give you or where they hide you." The guard knocked, signaling her time was up. Maya leaned down, pressing her lips to Victor's in a kiss that held both promise and farewell. "Goodbye, Agent Chen," Victor said formally as she pulled away, awareness of the cameras returning. "Goodbye, Mr. Zhang," she replied, matching his tone while her eyes conveyed a different message entirely. The next morning, Maya sat across from Wilson in his office, back straight, expression composed despite the turmoil within. "Your actions were unauthorized, reckless, and directly violated protocol," Wilson began without preamble. "You engaged in a personal relationship with a target, withheld information from your handler, and participated in vigilante justice." Maya remained silent, accepting the rebuke. "However," Wilson continued, "your work has led to the single largest corruption bust in Bureau history. 32 arrests so far, with more to come. The Attorney General is personally overseeing the case." He pushed a folder across the desk. Inside was a transfer order, Organized Crime Division with a significant promotion. "The official story is that Agent Maya Chen infiltrated the Zhang organization and worked with a confidential informant to expose corruption." Wilson's expression softened slightly. "The details of that relationship remain classified." Maya looked up from the file, understanding dawning. "And the confidential informant?" "Disappeared into witness protection. Location and new identity known only to myself and the U.S. Marshal in charge of the program." Wilson leaned back. "A marshal who happens to owe me a favor and who understands that sometimes regulations need creative interpretation." Hope bloomed in Maya's chest. "Sir?" Wilson stood, indicating their meeting was concluding. "Your new assignment begins in 3 weeks. Take some personal time, Agent Chen. I hear Montana is beautiful this time of year, specifically Whitefish Lake." As Maya left the office, clutching the file containing her promotion and what she now realized was much more: coordinates to a future she'd thought impossible. A text arrived from an unknown number. Some promises are kept after all. Together or not at all. She smiled, stepping into the sunshine with a lightness she hadn't felt in years. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with complications and dangers neither of them could predict. But for the first time, they would face them side by side, no longer divided by duty or destiny, but united by a choice they'd made together in the storm.